Good morning, everybody. My name is Deborah Byrne from DBpsychology Services, known across social media as DBpsychology. So this morning, as always, I'm going to talk about this week's blog, which was all about a bit of self-care again. We're going to continue with the theme of self-care, but this time it was about becoming your own best friend. We all have a great sense of being somebody else's best friend, or even a good neighbor, or a good parent, or a good partner. But we always seem to put ourselves last. So the idea behind that was the idea about this week's blog was to start putting yourself first. We're very loyal, compassionate, we're very honest with people. We have fun with them. We try to cheer them up. We love unconditionally, and we basically boost, other people, and that includes our own best friends. But then when we reverse that and we say, well, what are we doing for ourselves? We tend to not do that. We tend maybe not to be as honest with ourselves. We tend to put ourselves down, and we tend to be not as compassionate, and not to boost ourselves, or we put ourselves at the bottom of the list. And that's what we need to start reversing. So, what would be the benefits then of having a good self, being a good friend to yourself? There are huge benefits. When we start looking after ourselves and start being our own best friend, we become more self-reliant. We become more compassionate, not just to ourselves, but to others. We learn to trust our own gut instinct better, which means we can protect ourselves if somebody, comes into our lives or starts attacking us, or we're asked to make a decision. We are quicker at honing in on our gut instinct and saying yes or no, and we learn to trust that. We're better as a result then of making decisions and coming up with solutions, and we're less likely to be swayed by others and their opinions, because we will really know ourselves. We'll stand back and we'll look at problems, as I said, and find the right solutions. So that can have a real good benefit, not just for our personal lives, but also in business, in work. We also will build a better inner dialogue, which will be more positive, and very much importantly, we can be a great source for ourselves in terms of comforting ourselves if something happens. So, if we're feeling a bit lonely, if we're feeling a bit insecure, or there's an instability in our lives, if we're already our best friend, then we are better able to comfort ourselves and better able to get through those difficult times. So moving on, the 9 tips that I discuss in this week's blog, which you can find at www.DBpsychologyservices.com. One, as I always say, start with self-care. I know I harp on about it, but if you don't have your foundations in, everything else crumbles. You have to have your basic self-care. And I know people are struggling with that, so I will come on and do a blog. I've never done an actual vlog, a video of the basics of self-care, and I'm going to go and come on and do that. The next thing you can do is delete your negative thinking. So this is all tips on how you can boost, being your own best friend. So we're going to delete our negative thinking, and I go into that, and I've talked about this a lot on that, and there's links out from this week's blog out into a more detailed blog on how you can delete your negative thinking. Be nicer to yourself as you would be to others. And that means to treat yourself well and with respect. So think about that. What little things can I do? What maybe set up a treats and reward system? I've talked about this before, where I can be a little bit kinder to myself, a little bit nicer, and I can, celebrate all my achievements, no matter how small. Think about that. Think about what you could do. How can I be more self-respecting to myself? If you're treating others with respect, but you're not treating yourself with respect, well, I don't think you're really going to be doing a very good job of respecting others in reality. You're nobody's doormat, and you should never be there. And that leads me on to the next point. Ask for what you want. And it's very important to say no. and to, reduce your stress load by handing back the responsibilities that others are well able to do for themselves, but you take them on because you're putting yourself at the end of the list. So think about that. Think about, can I make a list? What am I doing? What am I doing for others? Can I hand back those responsibilities? And please never take on somebody else's responsibilities in work or cover for them. You're not doing them or, your work if you're self-employed, or if you're covering for somebody else and they're not picking up the slack and then they're taking the credit. That's no good in the long run. Be compassionate towards yourself. And in saying that too, in part of that is to let go of the control. So usually if you're putting yourself at the end of the list, if you're not being your own best friend, we tend to be a little bit controlling. We're trying to control every situation and we just can't. The only person you can control is yourself. You cannot control anybody else and you can't change anybody else. You have to accept that. So being compassionate means accepting, who you are at this moment in time and realizing I'm doing my best. And that's good enough. And that is okay. This is where I am. So a little bit of acceptance and letting go, controlling, and letting go of the people pleasing. That's very, very important. Spend some time, I would suggest then as well, getting to know yourself. Because sometimes if we have been, as I said, putting ourselves at the bottom of the list, we haven't been doing things for ourselves, we haven't been asking for what we want, we lose ourselves, we lose who we were originally. So taking some time out and spending time getting to know yourself. So I make the suggestions of journaling that all out, sitting down. You don't have to do it all in one go. You can, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, writing out, pick a topic that I've listed a number of topics there in the blog that you can journal on. So the likes of strengths and weaknesses, likes, dislikes, beliefs and values, they would be very, very important. There's more suggestions there. Have a look at it and see, journal them out and start getting to know yourself again. And then number 7 would be consider all your relationships. Are they positive for me? So you've got to now say, okay, I'm asking for what I want. So that also includes, what are my relationships like? And as I always say, delete the negative vampires. Those are the people that come into your life and they just suck the energy out of you. And they go off happy as Larry then afterwards because you're miserable. They've brought you down. Those people, don't worry about them and don't feel guilty about letting them go because they will always, always have somebody else lined up to take your place. So delete them, and it's maybe harder to delete some that maybe you have to work with, or your family member can be very much harder. Reduce the amount of time that you are spending with them, or don't take the phone calls. Set a time. I've spoken about this before. Set a time when you're actually going to talk to them. Limit it. Have your excuses that you have to go. You're just on to see how they are. Are they okay? And when they start saying negative things about other people, because they generally will gossip or they'll be, a little bit negative about things, you'll know that if you know them well enough, you'll have topics that they want to talk about. Change the subject, get them talking about something else, and then end the conversation. I have to go in 5 minutes. I have to go in 10 minutes, and then cut the call. Oh, I have to go now. Remember I said I had to go. I really have to go. See you. And don't let them reply, bye, and gone. But if you can at all, most importantly, all negative people out of your life. Number 8, set achievable goals. And we've been talking about this. I talked about this a few weeks ago about healthy habits and things like that. I also talked about creating new morning and evening routines. But set achievable goals. Make them achievable by making them small. If it's a bigger goal, a bigger dream, break it down into the smallest of steps. Because what will happen is if you don't do that and you attempt to take on too much at once, you're only going to set yourself up for failure, and then your brain will use that failure against you when you try to do it again. And therefore you're setting up a cycle of fear, a fear of failure. So, think about breaking it down into the smallest of steps. Maybe think about stepping outside your comfort zone as well, a little bit, just a little bit. Judge where your comfort zone is, and then maybe take this tiniest step outside your comfort zone. And the other thing is always there with both of those is to celebrate. You must celebrate all your successes. And this is, again, we go back to the treats and reward system, but celebrate all successes, even the tiniest of ones. And last but not least, number 9 is to have patience with yourself. I've talked about this before. If you're making any changes, and this is a change, this is a big change. In fact, becoming your own best friend can be a big change for somebody. Then, have patience. You're going to have wobbles. You're going to have days where you're not as motivated. You're going to have, that bump in the road. Something will happen. It'll throw you off track. You'll feel off balance. Give yourself time. You're trying to change. And that does take time. It takes time, and you need patience for that. So I'm going to leave it there for this week. Don't forget, if you want to have a look at all this, if you want to come on board with me, I'd love to see you sign up for the course that I have. And I'll put the links in the comments box. But the book is out there. My book is out there, The Building Blocks of Self-Care. So have a look at it. Nearly 800 pages, 33 chapters, and we really do go into doing an awful lot of what I talk about in more detail with the worksheets and everything else that you can take your time and make all those changes one little step at a time. So I'll leave it there, and thank you all for listening, and I will be back on again next Saturday morning as usual. And hello to Deirdre and Colette, and everybody else, hello, and thank you very much for listening to everybody else I know that listens in replay, and I will see you all again next Saturday morning.